Check, 1 2 1 2. How goes it, y'all? Hopefully folks can hear me. Welcome to Hip Hop Lit for Life. I am Desmond Span, instructor for this morning. So we're gonna get into it. Today we are talking about focusing on repetition, rhetoric and repetition, and we're going to do a little bit of a write like Kendrick Lamar. So that's what we're getting into today. Let me know if you can hear me if you're watching this right now. And I'm going to just assume it's all good. Damien, I see you, that's good. What's up, Mad Rhymes? Mad Rhymes 97. So why did Snoop Dogg grab his umbrella? Hey Sean, what's going on? Faux drizzle? I'm sorry, when I heard that one, that made me bust up a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. I like that. Just so you know, I am a dad. I have 2 kids, so I officially have my dad joke license. So we can get started. Speaking of being a dad, do you hear the this kind of strange grinding noise? Do y'all hear that at all? If you do, that's my son playing with the race car upstairs in his room. Alright. So before we get into the lesson, I gotta ask this for our cipher question. Cipher question: J. Cole's off season that dropped yesterday, Friday, and I listened to it this morning, or I listened to it Friday morning, actually. Excuse me. What are y'all thoughts? What are your thoughts on off season by J. Cole? Are we feeling it? Let's do like a 1 to 5 thing in the chat. If y'all feeling it, put a 5 in there. If you're not quite feeling it, a 1. Somewhere in between, if you need to put somewhere in between. It's like our own 5 mics. If you got a favorite joint off the album, anybody haven't not heard it yet, I would definitely recommend checking it out. It's pretty dope. Yes. Is that your 3 flames? Is that what we're doing? I ain't mad. I ain't mad at that. See what I did there? Mad raps. Catch that. So how many fire emojis for the J. Cole album? 1 to 5. 1 to 5. I'll give y'all some time to think on that. You know, when I think about it, it's a solid joint. It's a solid collection of songs. I'll put it that way. I did find myself wanting Infinite. I did find myself wanting more of like, I guess when I think about albums now, because of the era we're in, I appreciate concept albums more now than I did, back in the day. Because like when you take the time to listen to a whole album, and when people take the time to kind of use the whole 30 minutes, 40 minutes to kind of tell a story, build around a concept, I appreciate that. And I did find myself kind of wanting that from the off season. Didn't quite get that, but I still enjoyed it. I mean, yes, bars for days, lines for days, things that make you laugh, things that make you think. So he's definitely like, I equated, there's rumors that this could be like his like last retirement, like the album, like I'm retiring album. Because I know he's going to play pro ball in Rwanda. I heard that. Did y'all hear about that? About J. Cole playing professional basketball in Rwanda? He's got a team out there. So if he's pursuing that dream, he might be, stepping back from the mic a little longer than he did this past time. Matt Ram says, I missed them days when albums sounded like movies without skits and everything. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of, and I don't know if that's a byproduct of my era, just because I grew up on that. Or just act like if we got some young folks in here who are, hip hop heads, right? Does that observation hold up? Like, speaking of Kendrick Lamar, I think every album sounds different sonically. He does that on purpose, and you can see that there's like a theme running through it with variations. So the skits and the things at the end of songs and stuff that just kind of get more of the ideas and context swirling in your head, that makes it makes you want to spend more time with it than the singles. So you know, out of 1 to 5, I would give this off season a solid 4. You know, it's nothing to shy at. You know, if I did 0.5, I would give it a 0.5. You know, I enjoyed it. I'll go back and listen to it again. The Let Go of My Hand was my favorite joint on that. That's my favorite joint on there. I think I'm also partial to anything that like references fatherhood, because you know that's relevant to my life right now. Any other thoughts on J. Cole's off season? Otherwise, we'll get into this thing. All right, y'all. So we're doing some right, like Kendrick Lamar, repetition. Ooh, I swear I spelled that right. I'm gonna blame that on the software. We're gonna get into some repetition and rhetoric today. Is it Sanpaku? Hopefully I said that right. X artists are more focused on output, so they spend less time and energy on artistry, like theme, story, subject matter. Yeah. I did check out the Leakers freestyle. Yeah. Truth be told, because when I saw that it was dropping Friday before the class, I almost recreated the lesson, but I'm just not that. I don't have time like that to be like creating a lesson on the fly like the day before I teach it. So there are some things from J. Cole that I could teach, and maybe I'll work on that next week. There's something that he does that's a very inherent part of his style that I think we can learn from. So, but I did check out that Leakers freestyle. You know, I mean, I guess for me, freestyles are verses, right? Like I want to see people go off the top. That's just me when I see freestyle. So no hate against it. I enjoyed it. It was cool. You know, there's some moments in there, and there's like a Bill Cosby line that was just crazy. Like, you know, it's like you expect greatness from J. Cole, and that's what you get. So I'm not like utterly mind blown by anything I hear him do. So, but I like it when you know, the parts that I really enjoy about J. Cole is when he gets like spitting more from like that personal story narrative place, that perspective of just, you know, like his documentary too. Y'all should check that out. The documentary that came out, it's about 12 minutes. It's on YouTube. Check that out. All right. See, I mean, I could, you know, I know that I could do a whole thing on J. Cole, but I'm gonna focus on Kendrick today. So repetition is the focus for today. Here's a question. Can y'all put this, just your thoughts in the chat? So, like, what's wrong with repetition? Like, we tend to, especially if you're a freestyler, right? One of the ways that we say that, like, we're messing up is that we start getting repetitive, right? So why is that a problem? And I'm asking this more for conversation than necessarily like saying it's not a problem. I want to see what ideas come up for people. So like, what are the challenges that come up with you in repetition? Like, and why do you know, feel some type of way about it? So let me give y'all a few moments to think about that. So what's wrong with repetition? Well, I take a sip of water. I'm teaching today on like 2 bites of breakfast and like half a cup of coffee. So if you see me like lean over here and munch, I just couldn't help it. So how do y'all feel about it? How do y'all feel about, like, when you find yourself repeating rhymes or repeating ideas? Like, what comes up for you? Man, I don't know, man. Repetition is cool in hooks and all, but in verses, it's just lousy unless it's paired up with some great wordplay. I don't know, that's just the way I feel. Yeah, I think there is that, right? Like, where that view of, especially if you're in the craft and you listen to it, you're like, they're just repeating the same thing. But I think what I want to discuss today and show is that, how deep in the rabbit hole do we want to go with this? Because we're talking about rhetoric, and rhetoric comes from ancient Greeks, so we can go that deep in the rabbit hole with it. But what I like to think about, just anything that relates to rhetoric and repetition and just oratory, it's like the language and us speaking was created first before writing, right? And so for people to begin to, like, teach great oratory and great speeches and actually pass information, they had to start, naming and classifying the patterns that we use in our speech. Right? So there's a way, and this is what we're exploring, there's a way to use repetition that is in a way that's not lazy, that's not just that actually adds flavor to it, and then as we'll get into, it also helps you make a point. Right? Because why do we repeat things in general in life? Like when you're having a conversation, why do you tend to repeat something? Put your thoughts in the chat on that. So why do you, when you're talking to people, why do you repeat stuff? Guess it's a class, because we don't have better words to emphasize what we mean. Yeah, that's true. I think that, but I think also just like I find myself when I'm passionately discussing something, I'll repeat like the main ideas, right? Because we're also dealing with the fact that folks have short attention spans out here. So, they say like folks need to see things 7, 8, 9 times before they actually remember it the first time. And so if you're not repeating certain things, then you're not getting you may not be getting through. So the agenda on the boards today, we're going to go through the importance of repetition. I'm going to review some rhetorical devices that are based on repetitive. Only 7 of them. There's a lot more. Too many, really. Then I want to take some Kendrick lyrics and match them to the devices. Then, because last week somebody was asking me to freestyle and rap, so I want to do some rap practice with some rhetorical devices today. So I'm not really rapping to impress you. I'm rapping to demonstrate how I practice freestyling, like, intentionally. So today what I want to practice with you is I want to look at these rhetorical devices, understand them, get them inside my brain, and then see if I can implement what I understand immediately to update my craft, to push my craft further. If we can get to it, we'll do some writing practice with it, which, yeah, if we can get to it, and then I'll give you my takeaways. So I might have to skip the writing practice part today. So that's what we're going through. So feel free to take notes if you want to, so you don't do the whole yeah, I understand, and then you go to try to think about what happened. If I were to give you the quiz, you'll be like, I knew I understood in the moment. Because if you don't do anything with the information, then you don't retain it. That's what we gotta do. Alright, so the importance of repetition, simply this, right? Repetition is just repeating certain words and phrases, and we're focusing on words and phrases. We're not focusing on the repetition of sound. That's rhyming, essentially. And I think we're well versed in that. But come on, let me zoom. Can I zoom? There we go. Trying a new program here. So repetition, right? Repeating certain words and phrases in order to make the idea more memorable and clear, right? So that's if you repeat something with the intention, right? If you're repeating something out of habit, then that's when you find yourself, especially if you're freestyling, that's when you find yourself losing energy and being uninspired. But if you do it with the intention to make something memorable, more clear, then you put that gives energy to it, right? And this translates to lyric writing too, as we'll see with Kendrick Lamar, some Kendrick Lamar examples. It adds emphasis, right? So when you repeating something, it's like, hey, this is what I want you to remember, and it's powerful if used with variety and intention. So that is the why that we want to actually have a different relationship with repetition, right? So hopefully that's pretty straightforward. I mean, what do y'all think about that? I think one of the changes I want to kind of put out there for you is that when you repeat yourself out of a habit, that is, to quote Mad 97 Rhymes. Is it Mad 97 Rhymes? Like you got 97 rhymes, so you're like born in 97. Or 97 was your favorite decade of hip hop or something, favorite year of hip hop. Because I want to say Mad Rhymes because that's just how my brain works. But to quote Mad 97 Rhymes, if you do it out of habit, it can be perceived as laziness. But if you do it with intention, then it's your artistry, right? It's poetic. It's done with a purpose. So, but there are ways that we can add some variety to it that make it so it's not, even when you're doing it with intention, if you do it too much, people will kind of tune out and it becomes predictable, right? And then the verse loses some of its power, and the moment loses some of its power. So hopefully we're rocking with that. Let's get these notes back up over here. And I'm using this new whiteboard app to do all this stuff, so hopefully everything runs smoothly. Let's see if I can. Yes. So 7 repetitive rhetorical devices. Again, like I said, there's a lot more, but here are the ones that I kind of want to focus on. And I'm going to say these terms. I'm going to mess them up because I don't know how to pronounce them. I'm going to say this. Speaking of being repetitive, I'm going to say this many times. It's not important to memorize the names of these rhetorical devices. If you want to, by all means, go ahead. The point of this is not to say, hey, I'm teaching you to know what these devices are. That's not the point. The point is showing you how, from the ancient Greeks, how they classify patterns of repetition that we kind of all automatically do, and that now we have a variety of repetition patterns that we can use to make our verses and our freestyles more engaging with the ideas of repetition. All right. One of the reasons you want to use repetition is that, especially when you're freestyling, it's another mental move that fills space but can also add something as well. So I'm going to talk about them in a different order than they're up here right now. Let's go with this. Come on. Thank you. All right, so anaphora, this is one that's really common. So anaphora is repeating words at the beginning of verses or clauses. And clause is really just another way of saying like an idea, right? It can even be a phrase, but just like, you know, I won't get too deep in syntax and all that stuff, but just think of it as like an idea in line, right? So, I want to talk about 3, and then some other ones I'll just practice because I just want to focus. I'm not going to go through all 7. So anaphora is one repeating words at the beginning. You've heard this a lot. There's a famous speech that, you know, you hear probably every February. I know if you know what speech I'm talking about, put it in the chat. That has a phrase that repeats at the beginning. It's the name of the speech. Air horn if you figure that out. What's the name of the speech that we always hear in February in the States, in the United States? I know we're worldwide. All right, let's go. Let me see. Let me find the other right here. Okay. So this one, I want to say epiphora. Could be saying it wrong. But this is the repeating of the same word or phrase at the end of each line. All right. So Eminem's Legacy uses that. Yeah. Yeah, like anaphora and epiphora, you can find, and people use it by default without recognizing what they're doing, right? I'm not familiar with the Legacy lyrics off the top of my head, but because anaphora is so common, you know, anytime somebody repeats something in the beginning and then raps something different, that's anaphora. And then epiphora is they'll rap something different in the beginning and they'll repeat something at the end. I'm thinking of, I feel like it's Scarface on My Block is an example, right? Da 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 on my block, da 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 on my block. That's epiphora, all right? And then the other, and let's see, Dear Mama, yeah. Can you think of the lyric in Dear Mama where it does it? Or are you thinking like the hook? And are you thinking about like how each verse starts? So here's the next one I want to talk about. Epistrophe. Or it might be epistrophe, I don't know. But this strategy is about whoa. See, that's not. And that's the other thing about looking at rhetorical devices, because the terms come from ancient Greek. Like literally epistrophe and epiphora are like the same thing. It might be some variation of like a single word or phrase, but that's not the one I wanted to bring up. I'm going to delete that, matter of fact. The other one I wanted to bring to the table is, let's go with this one. So this is diacope is the repetition of words or phrases, one or more, with new words in between. And then I am going to bring up this other one, not that one, this one. Because here's how I'm thinking about this. So again, like I said, it's not important that you recognize, like you know all these terms. but there's basically kind of 3 ways you can think about repetition, like as a basic place to start, right? So mesodiplosis, hopefully I say it like correctly, but doesn't matter, refers to a repetition of the word in the middle of every clause, right? Or even a small phrase in the middle of every clause. And then this diacope is kind of a similar one where the repetition is happening somewhere within the line in the middle. So if I could, I'm gonna break out the pen here in a second because right now this is just moving too slow for me. But so here's how I break this down in my head, right? So I can repeat. So if I'm gonna use repetition, I can repeat in 3 places. What are those 3 places? It's just like a story. The beginning, the middle, or the end. All right, so I can repeat in those 3 places. So let's do it like this. Forgive my on-screen blackboard writing. It is not the best. So now let's bring in some Kendrick Lamar. So I want to bring this first sample here from blow it up. Can I make it bigger? Yeah. All right. So it's Rhapsody's song featuring Kendrick Lamar. It's called Power. So throw a 1 in the chat if you've heard of this song. Power by Rhapsody featuring Kendrick Lamar. Are we not? Maybe not sure. Do we know of Rhapsody? Like, she's dope. Like, we're talking about lyricism. Lyricists, like, don't sleep on Rhapsody, y'all. Let's get back to Kendrick Lamar, but don't sleep on Rhapsody. Anyway, the song is called Power. Rhapsody featuring Kendrick Lamar. And his verse starts with the phrase, let's talk about power. Let's talk about use your and ours that made the allowance. Hold on, let me actually do this real quick. I need to get the lyrics outside of this. So I'm gonna copy this. And let me see if I can just paste it like. There you go. Now will you let me move it? Of course you don't let me move it. All right, so let's talk about power. Let's talk about I think it's yours and ours that made the allowance. Let's talk about 100,000 kids raving and bouncing, craving and drowning in words. The day I pronounced it. Let's talk about power. So what's being repeated here? Where's the repetition happening? Is it happening in the beginning, in the middle, or at the end? Let's make this actually a little bit brighter, shall we? Thank you. I'm gonna just shrink it down a little bit. So where does this go? This little clip. Let's talk about power. Let's talk about yours and ours. Let's talk about the made the allowance. Let's talk about the 100,000 kids raving and bouncing, craving and drowning in words. The day I pronounced it. Let's talk about power. Where's the repetition at? Did I lose the stream? good. So that's the phrase we're looking at. I'm trying to see if it's my stream quality is coming through. So let me know if y'all can still hear me. When my laptop starts getting really hot, start questioning if I'm coming through or not. Back. What's happening over here, too? I think we're good. Okay. Trying to see how long my delay is. Okay. So if you catch it, our repetition is happening at the beginning. That's not what I want. I want you. So let's talk about is a phrase that's being repeated, and that is, for those who are watching, that's anaphora. And then the next part of this verse, he actually uses the let's talk about again, but he does not do it as often as he does in the first verse, right? And then the question to ask yourself, if you, again, go check out the song, listen to it. It's a really great song. What effect does this have on you as a listener, right? And something that we talk about here at Hip Hop Lit for Life is this idea of kind of like where we need to keep our perception, right? So we're not really thinking about whether we like the line or not, because whether we like the line or not, does it help us learn from it? But if we take away our value judgment on it and just think about, okay, well, what's the effect of this repetition? And for me, when I hear that verse and I'm hearing the let's talk about power, it gives my ears something to anchor to, right? Especially if we're starting at the beginning of a line, right? My brain does not have to process new information once that I hear that phrase again. And so like when he says, let's talk about power, let's talk about yours and ours that made the allowance, right? That's a line, you can think about what does he really mean by that? And then you can get lost in that, but then the phrase, it comes back again, let's talk about 100,000 kids raving and bouncing. Now you got that image of, kids raving and bouncing at a show, craving and drowning in words the day I pronounced it. So the visual, the image that's coming in the head of, basically kids at one of his shows, loving what he's doing and the words that he's saying, right? And I'm in that image as a listener. And then the let's talk about power brings me back to his words, right? Now, personal preference and taste will say, hey, maybe that's too much, maybe that's enough. But reason this is a right like Kendrick Lamar is because he does this a lot. He uses anaphora and repetition a lot, all right? So let's bring up another example. And I'm going to try to get rid of this one if I can. Let's see if that works. Come on, man. I just want to get rid of this text. If I do that, will that work? All right. So I'm going to get rid of that text. So I'm going to put you, if I can I put you back? Thank you. All right. So we're going to go with this one right here. This one you probably have heard of. This is one of his more popular joints from back. I'm pretty sure it's the last album he released. And let's paste it here. Let's get the format going on it. other one. I want you. There we go. And then let's zoom in on this bad boy. Okay. I got loyalty, got royalty inside my DNA. Coke, king, quarter, peace, got war and peace inside my DNA. I got power, poison, pain, and joy inside my DNA. I got hustle, though, ambition, flow inside my DNA. Where is the repetition? I'm glad you caught that, Rhymes. The DMX. That also kind of was a trigger to think about repetition. Where's the repetition happening in this one? We have it in couple spaces, right? We have the I got. Believe it or not, there is a term for repeating a phrase or a word. There is a term for it. We don't need to know it. It's, the whole point is you can just repeat a word over and over, and it's still a rhetorical device. But the main piece here, right? The main repetition is happening inside my DNA, right? Inside my DNA. And then, is this repetition happening in the beginning, the middle, or the end? As we can see in the line, as you can hear in the song, this repetition of inside my DNA happens at the end. And similar to the pattern, like I'm only using like kind of 4-ish bars at a time. But in that song DNA, right, it starts off with this repetition, right? I got loyalty, royalty inside my DNA. Like every line's ending in the inside my DNA, right? And so that gives you it creates emphasis, right, on this idea of DNA, right? So as you keep thinking about what's inside my DNA, and you're getting these images from his lyrics about what's inside my DNA, that is, again, gives the listener an anchor. Like, what's the importance here? What's the main idea, the main metaphor, analogy, association that we're connecting this all to? It's the inside my DNA, right? Like later on in the verse, he repeats it less because it's not needed as much, right? Because if he kept doing every single line inside my DNA, then the effect wears off. You ever notice how you will say a word to yourself and you start saying it over and over and over and over and over again till it stops sounding like a word? You just start hearing the sounds. That's what happens when we get too repetitive, right? We stop hearing the sound and meaning, which makes up a word, and we just start hearing the sounds. That could be done intentionally. I actually have a spoken word piece where I do that intentionally. But when it's done unintentionally, then you're losing, the listener is getting disconnected from your words. All right, so if you're rocking with me, just throw a 1 in the chat. All this is making sense. So I'm gonna delete that. Delete this, and I have one more example from Kendrick Lamar I want to pull in here. And let's see, this is from the joint I believe it is also on his last album. So let's look at this real quick. Let me get the font to do what I need it to do. Come on. Oh, that's not what I want. This. There you go. All right. So this is from I, and this is, I think, in the third verse, maybe second verse. They want to say it's a war outside and a bomb in the street and a gun in the hood and a mob of police and a rock on the corner and a line for the fiend and a bottle full of lean and a model on the scene. Yep. So where's the repetition happening here? And this is where it really connects to what DMX did. So about maybe just over a month ago, we did a Write Like DMX. And there's a lot of repetition in that flow, and that gives it a certain rhythm to it. Even as I'm reading this, the natural rhythm that comes from repetition, it's beneficial, right? So take a moment. Where is the repetition happening? They want to say it's war. It's a war outside. It's this phrase right here, and a bomb in the street, and a gun in the hood, and a mob of police, and a rock on the corner, and a line for the fiend, and a bottle full of lean, and a model on the scene. Right? So that is your repetition that's happening quite literally in the middle. Right? And a. That is the repetition. Over and over and over. Right? And again, because we're looking at it, I don't think people, when this repetition is done effectively, you don't notice the repetition, right? You just experience the line. You experience the rhythm of it, right? If you know I by Kendrick Lamar, the beat is relatively faster, right? It has this, it's like a live band funk joint. Like I'm pretty sure it's like over 100 BPM, right? And so, and Kendrick Lamar is, definitely a fast rapper, right? So he likes to chop a little bit. So this, and a bomb in the street, and a ba da 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 da. So you got the anda that kind of keeps that anda. It kind of keeps that rhythm to it. And remember what I was saying earlier too about how when you repeat a word over and over and over, the meaning starts to kind of fade to the background. There's just something about how the brain processes. I don't know if it's the word or just patterns in general. But it fades into the background and you just start hearing the sound, right? And so for rappers, right, we are more like drummers than we are like vocalists. So if we start repeating a word or repeating a phrase, then what gets highlighted, what gets moved to the surface in people's awareness? What do they feel more than the meaning? It's the sound, right? It's the cadence, it's that drum, right? There's a and a bomb and a da 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 da, right? And a bomb in the street and a gun in the hood and a da 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 da. So you can use repetition, right, with this and I mean even like in the DMX example from again over a month ago, the hood, the gun, the ba da da, like the repetition of the makes it more rhythmic, and that's a slow rhythm, right? That's not DMX chopping it up, rapping fast. So when I hear and I hear this part, I'm not bored by that repetition, right? It's an effective use of repetition. It's done with an intentionality. It's not something that is lazy. And because also like when you think of the overall concept of the song and like what's being said, right? They want to say it's war. I'm assuming the they is kind of like the media perception, right? Society could be a part of that, but a bomb in the street, gun in the hood, mob of police. These are all like great imagery based phrases, right? Which takes effort to really conjure up, and the rhyming is still happening, right? So like it's definitely not lazy, right? And it needs the repetition for that flow to be established. Does that make sense? Or even the Rain by X, yeah, man. So hopefully we can kind of, again, like, what I love about teaching this stuff, even for me, is like, I have some takeaways that just come from like my initial thoughts about the subject, right? Which is kind of what I said of, if you repeat with intention and variety, then your repetition is not boring, right? It's engaging, it aids, it helps your point you're trying to make be more clear. It gives the listener a break. You know what I mean? It gives the listener, because if you're always presenting new information, the listener is going to get tired, right? People can only listen and take in so much. So sometimes repeating something to say like, all right, no matter all the new information that I'm giving you, here's what I'm coming back to, right? And part of, me even teaching this is coming back to the idea of just the why of repetition, right? Do it with, the intent to make something memorable, to make something clear, to add emphasis. And the emphasis for us is the emphasis of, it could be a rhythmic emphasis, right? It could be a theme emphasis. I think like the Inside My DNA, like that's a theme emphasis, right? It can be the emphasis of just like the anaphoras, kind of giving it the anchoring of our ear and our attention, right? And so, and the funny, it's kind of, I don't know if people see the irony about the powerful if it's used with a variety, but if you repeat with variety, do you see that, catch that irony right there? If you use different forms of repetition, that's how you can not be bored with repetition. So yeah. Exactly. Still a variety. Exactly. So you're still repeating stuff. You're just changing what you repeat. Right? I'm glad we're connected. I'm glad this is making sense. That the habitual repeating, where we always repeat the same thing, that's the stuff that takes energy out of us, especially for freestyling. And if your writing starts to feel that way. The beauty of the writing piece is if you give yourself time. Some people don't. Like they want to write a verse in one sitting and then record it and put it out. But if you give yourself time and actually have a writing practice, you can notice all your repetitions and go back and revise and do some editing. That's why in the last class I was talking about, really through all of this, have a writing practice and process so that you're writing a little bit every day, so that you're not at a point where you're just, happy. People say it's laziness, but really it's actually efficiency. The brain wants to give, for whatever outcome you're looking for, it wants to give you the least amount of energy to get the outcome that you want, because that's efficient, right? So if you're in a situation where like you only have like an hour to write a verse, you're going to go to your habits more often than not, right? But if you give yourself some more time and then kind of separate each part of the process a little bit, then that's when you can begin to push the envelope and go into new territory, new ideas, new forms of rhyme. All right. That's like, and I get it. Because literally all writing is, at the core of writing, it's all the same stuff, to tell you the truth. So when I teach students, just like regular, writing articles and blog posts and things like that, I get to check stuff, sweet. The same inclination. It's like, oh, my essay is due tomorrow. I just want to write it out the night before it's due, so I just sit in one setting. It's easier. But then you end up writing the same level and you don't get better at it, So that's just what it is. All right. Okay, so I promised this. I don't think I have time to do like a writing practice with it. I'll do some freestyle rhetorical practice with it. So, and then I'll give you my takeaways, and then we will call it. So here's what I want to do. I want to focus on, so we can do this as well. So I'm going to focus on basically these four, but really all that means for me is just I want to do some intentional repeating in the beginning, middle, and end. That's my like shortcut version, right? Is the beginning, the middle, and the end. Repetition. So that's what I'm going to do for a freestyle. And then I will go for I don't know. I'm gonna do this too. This beat's a little fast. Not that I can't flow in a fast beat, but I'm practicing something. Oh, it needs to be quick. It needs to go. All right. I feel you. Well, I appreciate your energy, man. Let me see if this will jump me to the next track. All right. We'll turn the beat up a little bit, and we'll just go with I Need to Go. That's my starting point. All right. All right, here we go. Let's do it. Running late, yes, I need to go. On the microphone, I hit them with the flow, but I need to go. They want to come at me and give me all the dough, but I say, you know what, I really need to go. I need to go and get out in the street and hustle with the man, doing what I do as I represent for the clan. The clan is Mr. Span. I'm coming through once again as I raise a hand. I'm coming through as I'm breaking down the barriers. I'm coming through barking at you like a terrier. I bring it back, bring it forward, up and down. I hold the crown, freestyle, rocking right now. This is how I do with the style. I hold the crown and I hold the mic. I hold a girl that I kinda like. I hold a bottle that I drink all through the night. I hold other ideas to escape the plight. And this is how I like to do when I catch in sight. I like to take off, give me the ticket, taking flight. But no mask though. I be flying with my own wings, with my own dreams. And yes, I got my own team coming up, doing it with the nice beam as I keep on going, operating with the pristine. And I let you know how I rock the flow, and I let it go, cause I got to go. Right, that's enough. That felt good. So regardless if you like it or not, there was a moment in there, I don't know if you caught it, you can tell me if you caught it or not, but where I repeated certain things intentionally, and there was one moment that I really liked because it really took me to a new place. It was when I repeated something in the middle, when I was right. Did y'all catch that? Did you catch that repetition in there? That was the quickest freestyle I've ever done. So repeating something in the middle, that's where I kind of, let me do this. Middle. Let's see. Oh, that's the wrong one. So, thank you, man. Appreciate it. So there's a couple moments in there where, okay, so I have filler phrases, right? So this is the other thing of the reason I wanted to teach this whole thing. Filler phrases are essentially repetition, right? And again, I'm just focusing on the phrases. I'm not focusing on filler rhymes and stuff. So I think one of the filler phrases that I say is like, I'm coming through, right? So now when I catch myself saying it, a lot of people spend energy trying to avoid saying your filler phrases. When I catch myself saying the filler phrases, then I'm like, okay, let me do this intentionally next time, right? Like I'm actually going to repeat it a few times, right? Because now, again, it's freestyle, so it's whatever's coming up in the moment. But now that I'm doing it intentionally, I'm owning it. Versus when like I catch myself saying a filler phrase and then I beat myself up, oh, because I'm repeating myself, and oh my God, I shouldn't be repeating myself, this sounds whack, and that's draining energy from the freestyle, right? Like that's what we don't want. And now since I've done this with y'all, right, to actually think about, okay, what are some other ways that I can repeat? Then it's like, all right, let me repeat something at the end. All right, let me repeat something in the middle. Right, and there's another one, it's up here. it's called, I guess, gradatio, where you like repeat the last word at the beginning of the next. That one, I guess I noticed, I have a habit of doing that anyway, right? So I do that repetition whether I'm thinking about repeating it or not. So my takeaways, let me kind of write it down for you. Let me find some space, and then I would like to hear your takeaways, and then we can be out. My takeaways for this basically is just repeat with variety, which is the one I kind of came in with. Yeah, man, I appreciate you, man. I appreciate your energy, your engagement. It's always that helps. But I have enjoyed the rest of your day, man. Rhymes 97. And I'll give him some love. My takeaway: repeat with variety. Then the takeaway of like words become sounds. And what I mean by that is, if I want a part of my verse to be more emotional and musical and not so much head and lyrical, then I can use repetition to make it more musical. So hopefully that makes sense. I mean, if you've been with us this whole point, that makes sense. But I can be intentionally repetitive, knowing that if I keep repeating something, the meaning is going to slowly fade to the background, and then all the listener's going to really experience is the sound, and that's what music is, right? And then my takeaway for the freestyling piece of it is just repeat essentially in the beginnings, in the middles, and the end. So whenever I catch myself repeating, do it intentionally, but then start shifting where I repeat. So those are my takeaways. All right, this is how, like, when I'm freestyling in a performance mode, and I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I kind of went performance mode on y'all. Like, I really didn't like stick to the drill. You know, it's like if I'm supposed to be doing like 3-pointers around the ring, and then all of a sudden I just do some handles and go to the cup. That's kind of what it felt like. I just started doing natural things. I wasn't super disciplined in my practice just now, but it was fun. But when I am doing a performance where it's just like, okay, I'm not trying to teach, I'm not trying to like demonstrate anything, I let go of all that, and then I just deal with the signals that come up in the moment. All right. I know I'm talking about freestyling a lot, and I know that the last little survey I put out there was really about writing. Most people want writing stuff, but I really want y'all to freestyle, because quite honestly, the self-awareness that you develop through freestyling will improve your writing game, like 100%. Like that's hands down. Like, the self-awareness that you develop through freestyling improves your writing game. Because all these things that I'm observing and noticing, right? I've developed the ability to notice because I freestyle a lot, and I have to pay attention to the present moment when I'm freestyling. You know, not just what I want to say in rhyme, but what I'm feeling in the present moment and what thoughts get in the way. All right. So let's reflect and then get out of here. In chat, what's your takeaway? And then based on today's lessons, what technique will you try? All right. What technique will you try? And then anything that I said about, like, okay, freestyling, repeat in the beginning, middle, and end, you can literally say in writing, intentionally repeat in the beginning, in the middles, or your end, right? So what are your takeaways? What comes up for you? I'm gonna throw 90 seconds on just so I can wait. not get anxious. And then any other questions that you have, go ahead and feel free to throw them in the chat. Dante, I hope you're still around. Dylan, I hope you're still around. Love to hear your thoughts. All right, about 30 more seconds. Ooh, the delay is strong. Thank you, Young Hayes. Anything in particular in my way of thinking that you like, so I can do more of that kind of thinking? So I do a lot of thinking. For those who know me, man, whew, there's a lot of thoughts that go up in there. That's time for some Q&A. If you have any questions for me, I have some questions for y'all, man. Who's writing? And where are you putting your music at? Or where do the lyrics go? Like where do y'all write at? Well, if you have any questions, I'm always checking the comments in the videos, like after they post, so feel free to put them there. So trying to learn to rap from Brazil, the idea of repeating words. Yeah. From Brazil, learning how to rap, trying to learn to rap. Do you rap, so when you say that you're trying, like, are you in the, like, I'm actively writing and rapping, or are you in the phase of I'm privately working on how to rap and then hope to, like, one day share a rap with somebody? Yeah, I like that. I'm glad you bring that point up too, Young Hayes, about sounding more musical. You know, that's why it's just an art too, man. Like, you know, if you're too repetitive, then it's not as effective, and if you're always saying something new, then it's not as effective. And effective in what? I think connecting with your listener. That's you know, that's the especially if we're sharing and we're doing it from a place of like we want to express ourselves so we are felt by somebody else, then it's felt and understood by somebody else, then that's Private session? Yeah, okay. Yeah. Well, I'll encourage you with this. I know it's the most nerve-wracking part, but what I'll say is, if you want to learn to rap, practice in public as much as you can, and with as just, whatever is just beyond your comfort zone, right? It's like you're probably comfortable practicing, in your own room, car if you're driving, shower, like all that stuff where it's just you. But I say maybe find that friend who's into hip hop just like you, and practice with them, even if they're not, a practitioner. And then just try to keep expanding, because the more you have that experience, and pushing beyond that comfort zone, then the better you'll get, because you'll be willing to make mistakes in order to learn. So hopefully that makes sense. I'll probably say more on that. I mean, people say a lot about this, and I think we have to keep saying it, because again, as far as repetition goes, making mistakes does not feel good, and so you have to get used to making mistakes to kind of like deprogram the emotional reaction to them all the time. But that's a whole nother lesson. Maybe I'll do some mindset stuff. I mean, I gotta find a way to visualize it a little better, so it's not just me giving the hour-long TED Talk version. But yeah, we'll get so yeah, to that point, man, let me know what y'all are struggling with, or what you would want me to cover as far as the class goes. The whole idea of hip hop lit for life, it's like, yes, it's a live stream, but I'm running it like I run my real hip hop literature class that I teach high school seniors, right? Probably a little bit differently, because I'm able to cover more content than I am with my actual classes. But this is the idea. It's like, why am I just teaching in my classroom? I can teach online through live stream and then running how I'd run normally. So that's what this is about. And it's really just teaching life through the lens of hip hop, and helping y'all express yourselves, grow and develop personally. That's what this is all about. That's what Rhyme Masters is about. Next class is next Saturday, 10 a.m. And I don't know. I keep changing my mind, but I may do some J. Cole. I may do some J. Cole next time. So, and then I guess before we get out of here, in the chat, let me know preference if you had to choose, right? Rumors are circling that Kendrick Lamar might be dropping an album next week. That's fingers crossed. But out of curiosity, if you had to pick one, who do you feel more? No diss to the other person. It's just, who's your personal preference? So J. Cole or Kendrick Lamar? And youngins, being confident is the best mindset, and I want that to seeing with comfort, learning here. Makes me more conscious about what I'm doing. Yeah, growing is really cool. Right. Yeah, confidence is it's a game you get skilled at. It's like a skill, essentially. Confidence. It's not something that's, there's a lot of things that people think like just you're born with. There are actually skills and can be developed. So, but yeah, what's your preference, man? J. Cole or Kendrick Lamar? If you had to choose, I would probably, as of right now, I'm gonna wait. Definitely both, right? Yes. I think I would go with J. Cole just right now because he has a new project out. But if Kendrick does drop something this week, and take a listen, then it might be a toss up. I hear rumors that I guess he might be going a rock, kind of a rock way, which can be, you know, some rock I'm into, some rock I'm not. So I'm curious if that's the direction it goes, like how he incorporates it. And I'm really hoping too that he definitely keeps the kind of concept album thing alive. So, yeah. So that's it. So again, let me know in the comments any questions or any things that you have relating to this video or anything that you'd like me to cover in our Hip Hop for Life class. Check out, I have a newsletter. I guess it's a journal. I like to think of it, but it's a newsletter journal. So basically once a week, generally on Sundays, I'll email out some tips, some thoughts, some insights to, again, help you grow in the craft. So if you want to subscribe to that, there will be a link in the description of this video here in probably about 30 minutes. But basically, it's just Rhyme Masters Journal at substack.com. You can check that out. And then once you're on there, I'm playing with the idea of like actually creating like a group or a cohort of people. So it's like we would have these classes, right? And instead of you just kind of listening and taking it in, we would actually get to dive into your lyrics, right? So we would be learning together, applying it together. You would get some direct feedback and direct coaching. So I'm looking at the logistics of creating that. So if you're interested, get connected to the Rhyme Masters Journals, and that's where more details will come out about that. So, all right, y'all. I think that is it. I'm out of here. Let's see. Young Hayes, I say, I really like to think about connection between verses and make it more dense when the listener hears it. Make it more dense. I wonder what you mean by make it more dense. Do you mean like more ideas, like compacted together, like poetic kind of dense? Just giving time because I know it's the Brazil connection. It's a long way. All right. Young A's, if you want to even put it in the comments, I'd love to continue the discussion there. But I do need to head on and get to my kids and stuff. But let's see, connected between the verses and the meaning of it. Nice. All right, Joe. Cool. Yeah. We'll get into some more of that stuff too as well. Until next time, deuces. And I'll see y'all next week, 10 a.m. Hip Hop for Life. Release more genius over doubt.